Alright, we are live. Happy Saturday. Welcome, welcome, welcome. There we go. All set up. So, I think that's everybody. I don't have any extra cameras running. I did that the other day. That was kind of funny. Audio is working. Yep, looks good. So, today, let's scoot that over a little bit. So first of all, I'm Peter SAKIEVICH. If you're new here, I'm an art professor, educator, and artist. And I'm working on kind of an indie project here, and this is working on this comic. So if you're over on YouTube, there's probably a link in the description, and then if you're on Instagram and you want to get on the email list for this project, when it does eventually go live, however I do it, you can type comic, and I have a chatbot that will grab your email. So anyway, and then in terms of the materials I'm using here, first off, I have a dog under my feet to keep me aware of what's going on. And then second of all, this is iPad. This is a program called Infinite Painter. It's not as well known as some of the other applications out there, but it does some unique things that I like a lot that other ones simply do not do. So if you have any questions about it, let me know. Started doing the shadows on this yesterday. I think I'm going to try something here today, which I haven't done yet. So let's just add another layer there. And I'm going to try this top one. It's not like a big deal or anything. I just want to, let's see, where's the palette set? That button. I want to fill. There we go. See what effect this will have. So, and multiply. Well, first I wanted to see what it looked like that. And then empty out the background. So, for example, this is like one of the unique, this layer. One of the unique kind of brushes in here is this this brush. And there are other applications that you can kind of access this within. But it's kind of a select fill. So that's what we're working on today. Do let me know if there's any questions. I've got a chat thing up there. In fact, before my eyes go squirrely, I'm going to put on my reading glasses. I had to start using these not too long ago. I started using them this year, really. Never used them before. I started getting a lot of eye strain working on these drawings for a long time. So alright. And then I do is just wanted to try hitting kind of like the rims on a lot of these. See how that changes the mood. On these. Um, so yeah, that's what we're working on today. So do let me know if any questions. If you're getting caught up. If this seems like a project you'd be into, I'll go into some of the story stuff here for those that may be checking it out later. But basically, the story you're seeing here in the moment is the setting is this planet that humans have colonized via a generational ship. And so they've spent, you know, probably hundreds of years crossing between solar systems to reach this planet. And on arrival, something happened, and a lot of the ships were separated out. And so there's like a main colony group, but these other ships, they kind of got separated from the main group and crashed elsewhere or landed elsewhere on the planet. So it's a little unclear what happened to all of them. But the main colony, they've been trying to set up and live comfortably on this new world, and they've kind of run into a couple of problems. One is it turns out that even though they thought it wouldn't be an issue, they can't really process a lot of the available local life for food. Like they can't eat the animals very well. Like it doesn't work well for them. And then so they can't eat plants or animals very easily. So it's kind of limited them, and they've got stores and things from traversing between the solar systems, but they are kind of starting to run a little low. And earlier on, which is like this period right here, once in a while they'll kind of figure out where one of these other lost colony ships are, and they'll go out and what they found is that nobody's really alive there anymore. So that they crashed and everybody died or whatever. So this is a flashback where the main character, he's gone out with his father as a young man. He's in his early 20s or something, and they're investigating this crashed colony ship looking for supplies, and they run into problems, specifically these guys right here. And Anyway, this is a 8-page kind of flashback prequel thing I've assembled, and basically tells the story of what happened here. It does not end well for this group of bros going out to hopefully bring something back for their families. And then the main story is set much later, where he's kind of dealing with the aftermath of this and a commitment he made to his father in the wake of the events here. So that's kind of the setup. But anyway, he in the main story, the colony's really struggling, and this trip here was the last one that they sent a group out to investigate. It's the last ship that they knew where it was, and the colony is in much worse shape at this point because it's 20, 30 years later, and they still haven't solved the problems that they've been dealing with, kind of moving to this new world, settling it, and as a result, the supplies are running low, and they've set up kind of the leaders of the colony have set up this system of sacrifice, basically, where you bring something of value in exchange for supplies, and so that way they can kind of mitigate the losses and keep the control going on and not completely destroy everything that they've built up. So so anyway, they're running into problems, and the hero here and his wife, he's kind of in a bad shape. The experiences here have left him kind of an outcast, and people don't like him, and he's dealing with the psychological impact, the emotional impact of what happened, and the loss it meant for the colony and for the people involved. And so he's kind of in a bad way to a certain degree. And his wife is working, actively on the food problem. So she's kind of involved with trying to figure out how to get everybody fed. So light might start hitting in here, right? But so that she runs like an algae farm, and that's kind of a source of protein or some kind of sustenance for the people. It's not great, but it's something. And so that's what she's kind of involved with. And anyway, the colony leaders, they come to our character, and his working name is Vincent Breach. And they come to him, and they say, hey, we have heard from another beacon. Just started another ship. Its beacon just started going off, and we don't know why. We have an approximate location, but we don't know exactly what's going on. And we want you to go to that beacon, see what's going on with it, like a black box, acquire the data, and transmit the data back to the main colony. And in the case here, it's probably a one-way trip. He doesn't anticipate that he'll be able to return. So So basically, he makes a deal where if he goes, then this situation of sacrifice, where the colony demands something in exchange for sustenance, that his wife will be taken care of regardless, for the rest of her life. And so they agree, and he decides to go out to investigate this missing ship, and it leads him to the beacon, and he sees something at the beacon that eventually leads him to the main ship. Or something happens there when he goes to try to get the data off. It breaks down, or so he has to go to the ship, and he kind of discovers some very important things about the history of the colony and his family and what was going on, and the reason he had made a commitment to not talk about what he had seen on the on this trip here. So that's kind of the story. So genre-wise, it's sci-fi, action, horror, and I wonder if I need a tip on this thing. Anyway, so this is the 8 pages I did a while back. I think I kind of over-inked them. I think if I were to go back, I would simplify a lot of the inking on here. But but I want to kind of, main goal here is to just kind of put myself through this whole little process of inking, coloring, and lettering and prepping it into a PDF in this case, or EPUB or whatever, just so I'm kind of learning how to do all that. So that when it comes to actually making it, I'm not, just working in the dark here. So yeah, I think it was a good idea to kind of back up and redo this particular panel with focusing on shadows first. And I need the light to kind of come in at some point, so it's going to hit about there. So this stuff could maybe start coming into light. Pull that. Oops. That way we can get some silhouettes going here. That's right, I meant to record these. Anyway. Good afternoon. Welcome, welcome. Let's see, so these are cache light sooner. Good afternoon. And usually let me know if there's any questions or comments. I don't mind talking while working. Something I'm used to doing, so don't hesitate to ask any. All right, so if the shadows are coming around over here. Go with it. So come over here. Alright, so that will come up and over. So this line will start over here. Good afternoon. Looks like I missed one. I put in a spot down there by accident. This will probably get some let's have some better silhouetting. Button. So happy Saturday. Hope everyone's having some kind of creative activity out there. So this one's the left wall's a little closer in, I think. So there should be a line right there, I think. All right, anyway. You. All right, now we go back and fill in. Who's in our tip here? So yeah, working on getting these colors on. I should have done this months ago, but some things come up. Good afternoon. Happy Saturday. You okay there, buddy? Somebody chewing on you? Oh, we dealt with that already. I'm going to do it again. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Right, Bosch? What do you think? You don't know? Turned off. I got this little hot plate for putting my hot drinks on. Up here. But it only stays on for like a certain number of hours, and it turns off automatically. So I'm going to push that back. The light would be coming in like this, right? So, to a certain degree, might be losing it up at the top, huh? So it's coming in here. So I don't mind putting more of that into shadow. Or a bit more like that. Wrong way. Let's see, if it's coming out like that. I guess it would be. I'll just put that back out like that. Something like that. All right. And then we grab this. And grab my soft brush. Bring it up in scale. A little bit of a especially up there, these big areas. That's better than it was. And then we'll bring this stuff back out. This is a much more complicated scene for sure. My fault, I think. But I thought I'd come on for a couple hours or so this afternoon at the very least. Let's see. Shadow. Let me see. That's actually the background there. Something I'll have to fix up, I guess. So, yeah, that's what we're working on today. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, we are plugged in properly. Hopefully it's charging well. A little concerned about it. There we go. Good afternoon. Let's see. Good afternoon. All right, let's see. Let's get this into a screen layer. Make sure my color palette's in the right spot. All right, working okay now? Let's see. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right. Let's see. Alright, I gotta send this out. Alright. Yeah, I'm happier with that. Happier, right? Alright, where are you going there? Hold still. Alright. Alright, let's try that again over here. Oh, that's right, I've got the lock thing on here. Lock. I want that color. I want this color. Alright. Wrong button. Alright, erase. There we go. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome, welcome. Just thought I'd come on while I was doing a little coloring. So, got some red letter media going on in the background. Alright, let's get some of the light there. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome, welcome. Hello, good afternoon. Over there on the YouTube. Just working on some coloring today. I mean, to finish this off. It's funny because I did these like pages months ago, and kind of looking at them now, I think I maybe overdid it on the ink. I was having a good time though. I'll tell you that. So, this is for my little project I've been working on for a while, and the idea here is to use this kind of as a encouragement item to get people onto my email list for this comic project. There's a link on YouTube for that in the description. But once I get it done, I want to send it out to everybody on the list. This prequel as like a PDF to send out people on the list. While I kind of get into the main meat of the story later. I've been doing some more test pages this summer and just need to lock in and get the first 3 or 4 issues really planned out and then jump into producing those and sending out a pitch. And then I'm using a program here called Infinite Painter. It's a really good painting app that nobody knows about. It's on the iPad, it's on Android, and it has a lot of kind of unique tools. And the way I'm using it here, though, for coloring, you can actually do it like in Clip Studio, but though there are elements to this brush that other apps don't do. But it's kind of a select fill. This one, though, you can get it to have a texture on it, which you can't do in Clip Studio Paint or other ones. And of course, Procreate doesn't have this brush like at all. So, but it's pretty handy for this kind of coloring. Actually, there's a plugin you can get for Photoshop that does this too. But I'm trying to not use Photoshop these days, so I wish they would make one for the for Affinity. Maybe I should send them an email, or the guy that makes the one for Photoshop. See if he'd be interested. So I'm just kind of roughing in the light here, and then I can kind of be more specific. Actually, what I'm technically doing is erasing out the shadows. I'm not sure. I mean, it's like I read comics originally starting in the early '90s, like '91, right? So like my first comics were X-Men #1, Jim Lee. That was the first time I'd wandered into a comic book shop. And then the X-Men, Uncanny X-Men 281 with Will Sportatio. And I kind of miss that type of coloring, right, where things are more flat. It's like I don't want to really do color holds, as they call it. So the where you kind of lighten up the inking. I want to leave the ink as it is. Don't lighten all that up. What's nice about coloring on the iPad, though, if you think about like the iPad screen on the iPad Pro, is about the size of a comic book. All right, so if I were to grab a comic and throw it up here, yeah, it's about the same size screen-wise, so I don't know if you can see that over there. But so I like the idea of kind of coloring it, mostly trying to see it at this scale. I am wearing these reading glasses. I had to start doing that this year, just because my eyes would like get really unfocused when I was working up on my desk here. But I kind of like that simple coloring back then, and it wasn't long after that, they started doing all the coloring in Photoshop, and digital coloring became a thing, and sometimes it's just really, really overwrought, in my opinion. But I get why people like it, but I tend to like the simpler stuff a bit more, and so. Yeah. Let the inking carry it as much as I can, and hopefully it'll be a little faster for me to color as well. And so like a little bit of color changes in the shadows, like a little bit of airbrushing, just to get some subtle changes. But I've collected like a bunch of images of the coloring that I kind of want to lean into. It's more simple, more graphic. Um, so, but I'm not sure. I've never read Vampirella. I know it's still active. He does like Kickstarters or something for it. I think is what they do. They have like you don't really buy it in shops anymore. It's all done online. Um, yeah, my goal here is to kind of get again get this set done. So I've kind of walked myself through the different phases of production with this simple thing, and then finish assembling the pages I want for the pitch, get that out the door, and then really jump into the first few issues. Just get them in full production. So. What's nice about this kind of shape brush is it does kind of help keep things simple. You can be really particular with it. It's a little bit slow because it's a pretty large image, but come back in here and put things back in. Do really want to make sure I'm emphasizing so I've got some more pages inked out here. Like this is over here, use some pencil pages off the side. Here they're just kind of sitting here. I was trying doing some pencils at a smaller scale, a little bit looser, but I'm kind of mixed on the results. Inking came out okay, I think. Those are way over there, kind of over here. But so I tried doing little halftone inking, so little ink washes. Nothing groundbreaking. I just wanted to see what it would do. I kind of like the effect, but I don't know. We'll see. It might make coloring easier too. I don't know. I did get the. I did the Kickstarter for. On the race. J. Scott Campbell's Danger Girl, and also contains pencils from that series. Never got very far with. Was it Wild Ciders? Wasn't the best idea for a story, but it's interesting because you kind of get both styles though in there. So you get his, what someone else inked in the Danger Girl one, and then you get his pencils in the Wild Ciders one. So no inks. Nice big full size detailed scans of everything. I guess these go back to like 2004. It's a long time ago. But that was one of those things where I was like, do I really want to pay as much as I'm paying for this Kickstarter? Went kind of back and forth on it, and I was like, if I don't, I will regret it. So I'm glad that I did. So anyway, that's what we got going on here. Let me know if there's any questions. The story here, if you weren't here earlier, is basically, or you haven't heard it, these guys are a member of a colony on another planet, and they've been this big part of the story. They've been there for a couple decades. Anyway, they've run into this problem where they can't really. They thought they wouldn't have this problem, so they made some bad assumptions early on. But they arrived there on a generational ship, so there's no going back. It's like one-way trip. In addition to that, when they arrived, something happened and it caused the entire fleet to crash. And most of them kind of crashed in the same area. And so they have a kind of a main colony group. And then other ships crashed elsewhere on this planet. And anyway, they found it was like they weren't able to really eat anything on the planet. They certainly can be eaten or attacked at the very least, like with these creatures here. But every once in a while, one of these ships kind of they figure out where one of these lost colony ships has landed, and they go out there, and there's not really any survivors, and they scavenge what's there and bring it back, and that's kind of helped them extend the life of the colony. And so the flashback is them, basically they're showing up on the last ship that they've been able to find, and the main character, who's right here, he is out there with his father, this guy right there, and this group of guys have gone out to scavenge, and anyway, things go sideways, and he thinks he sees something on the ship that doesn't quite match up with their history. And anyway, the process of this, they get attacked. They're setting off a bomb, which is what goes off right here. And all these guys, except for him, they're killed in the process of that explosion. They set the bomb off because they're trying to like escape from these creatures here. And you know, they lose all the supplies in addition to the guys, you know, not making it. And anyway, as his father lays dying, he gets him to commit to a promise. And the main story kind of shows up much later. And, you know, it's like 20, 30 years later. And he, you know, they haven't sent anybody out. Supplies are running short. The colony's kind of instituted a system of exchange where if you want supplies from the ship, you have to exchange something valuable. And so that could be, you know, something you found on the planet. It could be something you have, but it's something you have to value, and then you can get some of these rations, some of these supplies. And anyway, so they're kind of living in this situation. The experience that he had here, it kind of really affected him. You know, severe, you know, PTSD and depression, and he's been living with that for a long time, and the guilt of all these guys dying. Good afternoon. Over there on the Instagram. Thanks for popping in. But he's been kind of letting the commitment he made to his father has been kind of eating him alive from the inside. So it's kind of at this moment the colony's in this kind of desperate situation, and a beacon has gone off from one of the lost colony ships from the fleet. And so he's approached by colony leaders to go out and investigate. And in exchange for this, he's been promised that this sacrifice, because it's expected to be a one-way trip. He's supposed to go out, find this beacon, relay the information back, and there's no kind of anticipation that they'll be able to bring him home when they're done. Because that's just how rough things are. So unless he like finds something amazing or whatever, there's just no way they can bring him back. And so one-way trip. And so he heads out to do that, and changes, you know, his relationship to the colony and the colony's relationship to the planet. One of the things about the planet is it's covered, or it's full of artifacts of an ancient civilization that appear to be all gone. Like, you know, there's all these artifacts, but there's no biological remains. There's no like documentation that they can understand. It's just like there's these strange structures scattered around the planet that are kind of all that remain of these of whatever this civilization was. And the planet itself is very strange as well, where it's basically, it's like a giant tangle of plants. It's like a giant, big giant tangle of just plants. So it's kind of a dynamic environment, I think. And it kind of grew out of me working on kind of an update to a concept art portfolio. And I kept thinking about these stories of what it could mean, kind of help guide what I was designing. And as I did that, it's like, maybe I should try turning this into something rather than just, a bunch of portfolio images. So thought, why not? I've always wanted to do something like this, and I have the time for it, so let's jump into that. Simpler. You need to get a new iPad? I need a new iPad. I think this one's 4 years old. If you want to buy me one, if you don't want to buy one for yourself, you can buy me one. How's that sound? Is that a good deal? I think this is 2nd gen or 3rd gen Pro. So it's a little laggy here. I am using a large file to color with here, but one of the things I found out, which I didn't realize when I bought it, was that if you buy an iPad that has more than a terabyte or more of memory, you actually get double the RAM, which I wish I'd known. So I feel like that would make a big difference. Well, I got your commitment then, right? So you are sending me an iPad. That's what you're saying, right? There's supposed to be, I think, a refresh probably next spring, because they did refresh it last like a year and a half ago or something, last year October, or a year ago, I guess, or less than a year. But they anticipate it being refreshed, if you go like Mac Rumors, in the spring. The newer ones are supposed to be really powerful, like they're using the same processors that are in their MacBooks. And so definitely probably worth looking into then. For a lot of like 2D stuff, it's become my primary device. If you're not familiar, this is a program called Infinite Painter. It's actually on Android, so maybe that would be a better option to try out, would be going Android. I've never really tried an Android tablet. So there are like other iPad apps that I like, like Nomad Sculpt and things that I think are pretty exclusive. So, all right, let's clean this up a little bit. Oh yeah, for the spring. Yeah, so if you're not familiar with this program, this is Infinite Painter. It has some unique brushes in it that I like. So like it has this kind of select fill brush, and other programs do have that brush. Like you can get that in like Clip Studio Paint, whether you're on the iPad or on your desktop. But this one you can actually put a texture into it. So I'm not using that here, but I've made brushes like it's got like a rock texture embedded in it. But you can also make like screen tones. So you can, if you wanted to do like the screen, I've actually made some screen tones for this that I have here. but um, just handy. I'm trying to do this as much traditional as possible, so I'm just really just doing the coloring and lettering in here on the computer. So I'm going to do the coloring here, and then I'm going to use Affinity for lettering and prepping for print. Because I don't like Adobe anymore, so they can stay over there. What's funny is I actually get all the Adobe stuff for free because of my university teaching thing. But I've kind of decided to make this kind of investment into alt tech. The way things have been going with some of these companies, it's just I don't like being as dependent on them as I have been historically. So, but I've always liked this Infinite Painter. I've actually done some work for the guy that makes it. I did a commission of a spaceship a long time ago for them. And then, because I was doing a bunch of those for a while. And then did a presentation in Lightbox for him about it online. I think it was 2021 or something like that. But yeah, Infinite Painter does some really cool stuff that, again, the other apps really don't do. So like how it does perspective. You can draw ellipses, circles in the perspective grid, and it'll snap the grid, and if you move it around, it'll change its shape based off this perspective grid, which is really handy. So if you want to have a little easier time drawing circles, you might say the app draws circles around other apps. But yeah, it's definitely one that I highly recommend, and I think it's like $10 or something. I think I like this kind of select fill brush quite a bit. So yeah, definitely a high level recommendation for me. This program. So I guess I'm just going to light these up for the most part. Yeah, I like about it is works with the right size, right? So I can look at that and say, maybe that's a bit too much, or that's not enough, or something like that. Alright, those shows we come over this one. So here's the guy, he's got the detonator, so they're trying to get out. The guy who has the detonator is right there, and he's about to be toast, so he's going to set it off before he can't. And they, there's just like the last few people trying to get off the ship. It's crashed, and so he's going to hit it. We'll start the timers going. And kaboom. Big explosions for a couple of pages while they're all running quick as they can to get clear. So face. I might need a new tip on this pen. So I don't think it quite grabs things as well as it used to. I don't remember if I have extras or I have to go buy some. I guess I need some red over there, huh? Already 3:30, huh? Yeah, you're having fun times and flies. At 4 o'clock, half an hour, my dog gets his special WALK time. So that is unmissable. Topic of discussion here. So that's the plan for today. Maybe come back. I'd like to come back in the evening. So I'd really like to get this these pages done. All right, I've got that one set up. I wonder if it's the plug. Sometimes, like when it's powering up, it'll cause issues with the contact. Get the heat or whatever from charging. That's like, we gotta go. So good afternoon. How's it going out there? What's next after Tigris Island? That's what's up there. That's right. Oh yeah? Let's see. Doing that. Yeah, I'm a noob when it comes to actually trying to make comics. So, like I did these inks a while ago, and I'm started looking like, yeah, maybe I kind of overdid it with the texture and everything on here. But I did have fun, so I guess Um, so yeah, my background's more like concept art and standard kind of illustration, and so um, I was kind of working on this kind of concept portfolio rework for myself, uh, doing this world building project, and I was thinking about quote from or a statement from Ian McKay talking about the way that story can direct your concepts and kind of why you build things certain ways. And I was like, oh, what? Yeah. So I kept having kind of stories come into my head while I was working on the concept things, and I was like, what if I actually did something with this? I did try some new pages over here, but he's got the gray tones on here. Still kind of feel like I'm overdoing the inking a little bit, but but I figure I need to do like 100 pages or something at some point. Um, yeah, so yeah, I kind of gotten doing these concepts. I was like, maybe I should try my hand at that. See what happens. And it was actually a different story I originally wrote up, a different plot I assembled, and I kind of did it following a bit of what Ian McKay does in his storytelling videos he did for Noman, where you kind of just you draw the story beats, and so I did like a bunch of quick, very sloppy storyboard type drawings of the previous one, and I was like, oh, that's good, and then it grew into like a larger thing, and so I was like, well, maybe I should do something simpler, which is where this is kind of built along the same project, but it's set during a different time, and has a simpler story and I think fewer characters and settings, which I think would be, you know, more manageable for a noob to handle. So, um, yeah, and then I got the J. Scott Campbell Kickstarter thing in the mail the other day. I'm like, maybe I ought to, try cleaning, doing the inks a little cleaner. So, for those that are curious, people seem to be coming in all of a sudden. Um, this is Infinite Painter. It's a iPad app, and it has this nice kind of shape, this kind of select fill tool, which you can get in other programs. Like you can get it in, Clip Studio or whatever. Photoshop, there's a plugin for it. But I try to avoid using most Adobe stuff these days, even though I get it for free at my university gig. But what's nice about this one, though, that's different than what you would get with Clip Studio or even the Photoshop things, you can actually put textures into the brush. So these are brushes I've made over here. And so you can put like a grunge texture. I've got, actually I made a whole inking set. And I made a set of screen tones for it too. Why do I avoid Adobe? I don't like their business practices. You know, I don't like the fact that they went subscription a long time ago. I don't like how they're pushing AI into all of their products. I don't like how buggy their apps are. They kind of refuse to actually improve the programs themselves. So I shifted over to using Affinity for a lot of the photo stuff and anything vector I need because it's all kind of in one program. And I actually bought Affinity 2, version 2, a couple of years ago. And then they made version 3 free last year in October. And what Affinity does is it combines Adobe, basically combines what Adobe has in InDesign, Illustrator, and Photoshop into a single program. And this one program is smaller. It's like significantly smaller than on my hard drive than any one of them. I think it's like 1.5 gigs or something on my hard drive, and like Photoshop's like 5 or 6. I took Illustrator and InDesign off a while ago. I still have Photoshop on there just in case I need it for something. Again, I get it for free, so just leave it on. But anyway, what's nice about those, like again, it combines all three into one. So, you know, if you want to do, you know, your comic book, you know, bubbles and things and lettering in there, you can do it in there. The other thing you might lose out on, you know, not having, or might feel odd to not have, is like access to like the font stuff in the Creative Cloud. You have to use that. So you have to like, you know, get your own font manager. That's not a big deal, but it could be for some people. So, and then in terms of like the tech stack of Adobe, I think the only program you can't get either inexpensively or for free out there is After Effects for like compositing reasons, especially. But like video editors, there's DaVinci Resolve, which isn't for the kind of video editing I do, which is very limited. It's very easy to use. And then even for like Lightroom, there's there's a setting, kind of a layout or a part of DaVinci Resolve that basically does what Lightroom does in terms of like how you edit raw photos. And then with then Affinity, they were bought by Canva, and so the reason why it's free is they want you to get a Canva AI subscription. So there's kind of different different layouts for your tools in Affinity. So we'll say like Publisher or Publishing, Vector, and Pixels, and you kind of swap your tool sets out as you go from one to the other. You can actually make your own too, where it's like combines different ones together. But one of them that they have on by default is Canva AI, and so but you can just turn it off. And so you just turn off that, you can remove it from the settings there. It's just gone. I'd rather pay for the program, but they don't have that as an option now. But that's what they want you to do is get a Canva subscription. So, yeah. So again, I think it's a good idea to kind of broaden your tech stack as it is. As a teacher too, it's like I feel like I should be more conversant in the options that students may end up using. So I don't think I can know everything. There's a lot of programs out there these days that are a lot of options for illustration, even free ones like Krita or GIMP that are a lot better than they used to be. There was like a big update to GIMP recently, and there's a version of it that I guess emulates the Photoshop experience. Some kind of plugin, because GIMP is open source, and so they have someone made basically a skin that makes it look like Photoshop, because it's designed originally as a photo editing tool. People painted it and do illustrations in it and things, but they did a big update not too long ago. So yeah, I have some comfort now with using Clip Studio. I should use some Krita some more. Again, I like using this app right here. So it's like most people use Procreate on the iPad for a lot of things, and it's a perfectly good app. But this thing does a lot of things that one doesn't, that I like quite a bit. And so I've kind of leaned more into this program because of that. So, but yeah, I like the shape drawing. Well, it does a bunch of other stuff that I think is really nice too. That's it's not just that, but like you can customize the interface. Like I want the color picker out, I grab this, I can pull it out and stick it where I want. The tools up here are ones I select out of up here. You just hold and drag them up there. Drop them on the X to get rid of them. So I like a lot of that stuff in here. So the only thing I don't like is like you have to. It doesn't work with other brush engine brushes. So if you want to bring in Photoshop brushes or Clip Studio brushes, or like a lot of programs, they'll let you bring in Photoshop type brushes, AVR files, and this one you can't do that. So it's a small thing, but then once you kind of get brushes you like set up, or you find a sets ones you like, then it's that doesn't really matter as much. But I have like a lot of Photoshop brushes, and, just sitting on my computer. You can bring in the alphas for them and kind of put them into the brush, but so you can rebuild brushes in here. Just you can't just like import them. So that's like the only thing. How do we put time in? All right, about 10 more minutes. My dog's pretty good about his schedule, so I should be hearing from him pretty soon. He's under my feet sleeping in his. He only has 2 beds in this room, so he's got a challenging life. Yeah, I mean you can export. Yeah, you can export this out. So if I want to take this, you can export it as whatever JPEG, PSD, PNG, that kind of thing. Yeah, so if you want to take this out of here, like you say, you do this stuff here, that's what I'll be able to do here. So I can take this image, and then I'll probably just take the flat image, right? Just because that's what I'll need. And I can send this over to my computer. And I can download it, throw it on a hard drive or whatever. So I spent an inordinate amount of time like cleaning up my digital life this summer to a certain degree. I got a new hard drive and reset my Carbonite to work with my main computer. Yeah, so you can export this as a PSD. And the only thing it doesn't do, like it says like a background default color thing over here, and that doesn't export, and I don't know why. I know the guy who made the app, so I've done work with him in the past. So I don't remember if I mentioned in this conversation or not. But I did a Lightbox presentation for him and did a commission for them a long time ago. But yeah, but anyway, I like this tool specifically that I'm using here. Just because it makes a lot of these things very easy to do. And again, if I was doing this whole thing digitally, I'd take advantage of my screen tones that I made. Oh, it's just so there's this right here. This is like a background color. So this is like a layer that's not part of the layer stack. It's not a hard problem to overcome. You just have a layer. I just put a layer at the bottom that's a color, right? So I grab a layer off of here. It's actually one of the things that's really nice that a lot of apps don't do, that this one does do. But you can just put a layer on the bottom that's that color. So I grab this and drag it down. I could fill it with that color. I can use an obnoxious color when I'm doing my flats just so I can see what's going on. So that's not a big deal. It's just that this is like the paper layer or whatever, and other programs do this. I think Clip Studio does this. But yeah, for whatever reason, that particular layer doesn't actually export. I don't know why with the PSD stuff. But one of the things it does do, actually, I think is really handy, is it has non-destructive adjustment layers. So, like you can go in Photoshop or Affinity, you can put these adjustment layers on top of your working layers, and you can adjust, the curves and gradient maps and saturation and other things. In Procreate, they're destructive, so you can do these as filters, but they're not adjustable afterwards. So if I were to like add in an adjustment layer on top of all this, like we do like a I don't know, an exposure one. I can come on top and I can do this, and it sits on top at all times, and I can turn it on and off as I please, and it's not permanent. So now I'll just get rid of it. Don't need it, but that's like a big deal that the app does that, and others don't like at all. So later on right here. Like a lot of people like to do some of their initial coloring with gradient maps, right? Or if I want to do that here, I could, that'd be a handy way of like adding a little bit of unity to color and things in this image. So yeah, that's like a really big thing that it does that other apps don't do. There's a bunch of other things just like that, but there's certain things that like stick out to me just because of how I work. And I think those adjustment layers would export out to like Photoshop. So if you want to send that over to Affinity or Photoshop, I think it keeps them. I should try that out. So, and it's not, it's like, I think the app is like $10, so it's not like, you're gonna break the bank. It's a free to try app, so you can kind of download it and sketch around in it a little bit. I don't remember all the limitations it has for the free thing, and then in app you can buy it for whatever they're charging, whatever he's charging at the moment, $10 or whatever it is. But he just doesn't have like the same level of marketing that Procreate has or other people do. But with Clip Studio, they keep trying to like hire and use like AI people in their marketing. It's really bizarre because it's like that's not their market at all. Like even if you were fine with it or whatever, it didn't have any issues. Like it's not that's not their people. It's very, very strange, I think. All right, 5 more minutes. I appreciate that. It's interesting. I'm trying to like, I'm used to painting and coloring things on the computer, but it's a little bit different thing where I'm trying to think about as a comic, right? And I was like, I've read comics for a long time, but I never really tried making them. So we'll see how it goes. It's like inking for it's very different than like how I would sketch, right, in a sketchbook. So I'm used to like sketching with a lot of ink in my sketchbook, but thinking about the graphic nature of comics and making visual at a certain scale and all of that, so like it's a little bit of a different animal. So like I really need to see it kind of at this size, because that's size of a comic is basically the iPad screen size. And so this doesn't need any color, any shadow in there at all. So that's going to be part of the explosion. So, yeah, so we got our shadows laid out. Probably use a little cleanup. And I did spot some like the flats in there that I didn't do quite as well as maybe I should. But yeah, hopefully come back in a bit this evening. Keep going. Hopefully, I'd like to finish this page, today or maybe tomorrow. Get the rest of this little 8-page set done. And then people that are on my email list, I'll send it out to them. So if people aren't on that, you can hit comment comic for comics, and I have a chat bot that will collect your email address. So anyway, I think that's a good spot to stop. Thank you, everybody that came in. It was nice talking to you, EPHK. That's I was actually curious, are you a Hong Kong person? They hai bingo yana. They gong jumana. Shut this down. Oh, French.